Alright, hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Today we will continue where we left off yesterday, which was I was working on the texture packing code, which is this guy over here. I implemented this view here. I wrote an algorithm that detects these regions of pixel clusters, which I can then use to select these sprites from the atlas. I can then select one of them and then change the texture coordinates to my liking, like this. And we can snap to pixels if we want. So that's how far I got yesterday. Today I actually want to do saving and loading. Currently I'm not doing anything with the values that I am manipulating in the GUI. I would like to, if you go over to the game code, I have one of these. It's the texture map that the voxel engine uses to texture the voxels. And since each voxel has 6 faces, I need a texture that has all the textures in it as a texture map. So this is the idea of the texture map, which is laid out similarly to how this texture is looking, this guy. And I'm picking 6 texture coordinates out of this texture to then map the voxels so that each voxel has a different color. But currently I am setting up these texture coordinates programmatically or hard-coded, which is like here. And I want to make a editor where I can do that more easily, since I'm doing traditional animation, which is like this. Every frame is a keyframe, and I want to the animation is gonna look like a traditional 2D game, even though it's voxel based. That's why I need a better way to organize my texture maps. So that's the purpose of that editor we're working on, and we're trying to fill one one of these texture maps for each keyframe. So each keyframe is gonna have a different texture map. So I'm gonna begin by having a storage for these, which means I'm gonna need the definition of that up here. Or wait, I lied. Where am I including the texture pack? Oh, it's below. Okay, that's fine then. So I can have an uninitialized array of texture maps. So this is what you're trying to fill up. Although it's slightly different, I also need to store a name and whether it's selected in here. So I need to store one of these in here, since I want to display them in a list box. Let's just call it this LB. I don't need a comment here since the type is self-explanatory. And this is the texture. Okay, we're filling up texture maps, but the editor is called texture pack, since we're also gonna have multiple sources of textures, and then this editor will pack all the textures together into a single texture. So that's another requirement of this editor. Let's also put them in its data structure in a list box. Right. So the editor defines the pixel regions in wait, I guess that's fine. Well, the texture region here, the region I'm selecting is in pixels, but the texture coordinates are in texture space from 0 to 1. So I need to normalize them before I'm sticking them in here. So, but then again, that's fine. So we have texture pack sources. Since I changed the data layout here and removed the field here, this shouldn't be compiling. And let's get this up to let's make this work again. Okay. So we will have a list box here. Let's see, what's the definition of list box? Not this one, the other one. Oops. Isn't there another list box? I called it list box intrusive because it looks into its entries to get the list box item value. So we need scroll position. Actually, let's make this a template. Why not? So then I can make these into a list box. And this also becomes a list box then. Since I'm gonna need this box consists of the scroll position and its entries. Let's call them items. Alright, this makes sense. Let's get rid of this for a second. Does this compile now? Okay. Let's copy out the definition. So editor, texture sources, scroll paths, then the items. Let's get the pointer to this so I don't have to type that much. Items, get the data of the items. The entry size is the size of this guy. The items count is just this. And then the width and height that the list box is gonna occupy. The column width is 150. Let's use 150 and 300. That seems fine. And multi-select, we don't want multi-select. Alright, let's see how this is looking. From vector to float. Which one? Argument 1. Oh, yeah. This box just has a vertical scroll bar. Not reference, that's fine. Alright, there's the list box. First of all, if we can still add texture sources, only then are we gonna do this. We then try to open the file. This will go somewhere else. Let's put it in here for now. I will make a new button for that. Texture regions. So each item should also store texture regions. Okay, we add a new item to the list. The ID, we need to load it. And then the texture regions, if we successfully loaded the item, otherwise we undo the addition of here. Okay, this goes into this now. The texture is this guy. Let's store the width and height also in here. I don't like to write that way. Oh, this is good. This doesn't clear the currently stored region, so I can use this as the texture regions pool, and then these are spans or slices into this array, so I don't need to use an allocator here. I just need to store the starting size of the array. This will push back additional regions into that array, and then I can set the regions by going by offsetting to the starting size, and then so the total size minus the starting size is the count of regions added by this algorithm, and this is the offset to the beginning of that slice. This way we filled in the structure right. These aren't needed. This can also go away. Let's try to compile. Name is not a member. Let's call text. Right now, if I add a texture, clicking on it doesn't do anything, and that's because of this check here, where I say whether there is room to add new items, and there currently isn't, since I didn't allocate it. texture sources, items. What's the data type again? This guy. Let's say you can have 10 sources. Alright, there it is. And there is our source. What does this return? It returns the index of the last selected item. Let's store that also in this structure, not here, in here. So I can then go texture sources last selected equals. If nothing is selected, it returns -1. So actually, let's do then we need to make sure that the last selected item is actually selected. Otherwise, we set it to not selected. We set last selected to -1 again. This seems fine. This is a pretty this is a pattern that emerges very often when dealing with list boxes. I'm thinking about whether to generalize this. Let's leave it as it is for now. So we have the selected index. But I actually want the item itself. So to be able to make the name editable, I need storage for the name. Let's allow 20 characters for the name. Do I have a string class? It's just an U array. Okay. Well, if I have storage here, I can't actually just assign like this. I need to do memcopy. Alright. Where's string? Let's make some operators for string. Can I write this like this? I don't think so. This needs to be a member function, I think. Let's try to compile and see. First of all, must be a non-static member, yeah. Okay, this should do the trick. So I can go here and then say what? I can do it like this. This is an uninitialized array that already has a small internal buffer. And then I can do copy to string. And then this becomes this way. Alright, that portion of the code is compiling, that's fine. Selected index not a member of texture pack source. Texture sources last selected. Oh, this one. Texture pack source. This is supposed to be just selected. Right. And then the edit box thing. Text dot capacity. Right, that's all I need for the edit box. And now I should be able, or maybe not. Less selected is 0. Okay. So I need to initialize less selected. Or maybe that's to bounce checking. Right. Oh. And place back, the way I wrote it doesn't call constructors. Yeah, this is a problem here. I think this should solve it. Oh, I meant to dereference there. Where is the text at? Got initialized correctly, size and capacity is correct, but the pointer isn't. Right, now we're calling the constructor correctly. The buffer. And you're setting, it uses the user defined, the automatically generated copy constructor, and then it assigns the wrong pointer here. Yeah, this is the pointer of the temporary. It's called the constructor for. These two addresses aren't the same. So I guess can't have nice things. So this is a workaround for that. This should be enough. So now this doesn't work. Storage and the capacity is just count of the array. Text length. Okay. So we add the texture, select the texture, we give it a name, it displays it here correctly, but not up here. That's because we don't update the listbox item name. There it is. Why isn't the unnamed part working though? So what is copy to string doing? So it has a capacity of 20, and I'm comparing it to the size instead of the capacity. That's the problem. Okay, there it is. So we can select it, we can add more than one texture. We can rename the textures. And then next up we want to display them. Let's add removal options. Remove texture. So this should be on the same line as the button for adding textures. Let's just call them add and remove. And if you press remove, it's gonna remove the last selected. So we delete the texture. We then need to erase the item. And then we're gonna see if this is a valid iterator. Alright, this should do it. Let's try it out. So we add the texture, we select it, we remove it, and it's gone. Right, do texture display. This should take the last selected item. Should I call it regions? Regions, yes. Yeah. Okay, so there is something missing here, which is I need to update the texture regions, since I just created a hole in this pool of rectangles, since these are slices into this array, into this pool, and if I remove an entry, I'm basically leaking memory by not adjusting this pool. But let's do that later. Let's just check that this is working. I'm selecting it, but we are not seeing. I can actually select stuff. But we're not seeing the texture itself. Set texture, we're setting the texture. It should be working. Oh, okay. This is wrong here. Let's remove the texture width and height here. They're not needed anymore. This becomes source width and source height. Alright, we should now see the texture rendered. There it is. Interesting. Now I can't click on anything. Alright. There are some issues there. Okay, what is the issue with that? What happens if I add two small textures? This is working. So when switching textures, I should deselect the thing. So let's remove this texture. This is working. So if I add it in again, okay, that isn't working. So the regions for that aren't set. So removing a texture and then adding a new one makes it so that it doesn't have regions. Why is that happening? Size is 1 and last selected is 1. How is the size 1? Oh, okay. That's why when I'm removing an entry. I'm not updating the last selected index. There are too many paths here. So I want the index of this entry within this array. That is the last selected. And the same thing needs to be done if this iterator was correct to begin with. So let's remove this texture, add a new one. No, it's the same issue. This guy doesn't have a region. Alright, let's try to step through the code here and see what the issue is. Alright, the starting size is 2. The image is correct. The algorithm didn't find any regions. Okay. Oh, this is wrong. Why was this working? Because these were 0 until now. Okay. Okay, this is working initially. I add another one and it did grow. I remove it, add a new one, it doesn't grow anymore. I didn't step through correctly. Let's try it again. Oh, that's why. It checks regions that of other textures. Okay, I need a slice there to pass in. It's an uninitialized array view. And the capacity is the remaining of the texture regions. So then we pass in the slice in here. Then we need to make sure that this has the right size now, which is its current size plus the size of the slice. Okay, this has regions. We add a new texture. It also has regions. We remove. We add it again, and it has regions. Okay, we fix that. Let's make the list box for the sources a little bit smaller. 300 was too much. And also I need to update the removal code there. Great, this is nice. Let's put these two buttons on the same row. This takes a width and a height. Do I have one that just takes a width? No. There it is. They're on the same line. Okay, it's going over boundaries, which makes sense. Since the width of the column is 150, so they aren't allowed to be bigger than 75. So 70 should be fine. Yeah, that's okay. Right, I can have multiple sources now. So now for the next part, which is defining different texture maps. So let's put this part of the code in a different function. Right. Okay, we didn't change anything, hopefully. Should be still working. Yeah. Um, right. I don't want to do this tool yet since it's not that important. We don't really leak anything. It's just I'm not using memory that I could. Which means I'm gonna run out of memory if I add too many sources, but then again, I probably am only gonna use a couple of sources. So the next thing is actually populating these texture maps, which I want to do using a tree view. So we're gonna have a new list box. Let's see, I need the texture maps. So intrusive list box. Takes the scroll position, the items, the item size, which is texture pack entry. No. Yeah, texture pack entry. The size, the item count, width and height. And multi-select this time, we allow multi-selection. Also, let's display text. So this is texture maps. Okay, let's see how this is looking. Float, white, white. This should be address of. Yeah. Now we need to add texture maps. Um, $70. I just said I wanted to tree view. Why am I doing this as a list box? Right? Um, Good. So if I click on add, we are gonna add a new texture pack entry. But I don't want this to be a list box. Okay. Mm. So the thing is, I want a collection of animation frames, and each animation frame is gonna have 6 faces of textures. So that's why I wanted a tree structure instead of list box. So each yeah, it should be fine. Let's Get rid of that, I don't need it. Let's keep it as texture pack entry. Okay, we can have up to 100 texture pack entries. We need a name. Okay, let's just go this far for now. So we press on add. Texture maps. So if there's remaining space, we add a new texture map. There's a copy to string function that I just wrote. Copy to string. There it is. I need a second version of this. Let's keep it like this. Alright, this makes sense. Okay, so now we go entry text length is copy to string, entry text storage, and the count of the text storage, and we copy unnamed into it, just like before. And that's it. Then here we iterate over all the entries. name. The name is entry text store and entry text length. And the expanded value is this guy. Alright. Alright, there it is. So this is basically my tree structure, although the indentations are wrong currently because I forgot to call into and struct group. There it is. So if we expand, we're gonna see an edit box for the name. How was this defined again? Name, there it is, name. Data, length, and the available space. So this way I can rename. Then a list box. For this list box, since it's static, it's in static array, I can actually use a static structure for the list box items, since each entry has only 6 faces, since a voxel has only 6 faces. The type of the list box items is this guy. Alright, and then they are laid out. Section map, voxel face. Oh, there it is. So front, like this. And then here I can refer to that structure here. So I need the scroll pause. The scroll pause make array view of our entries. A width and a height. 150, 150. Multi-select is true. Okay. It returns the index of the last selected thing. Actually, I don't need to do anything with the selected value. Alright. Oh, okay. This isn't what I expected. So instead of putting, yeah, since it's a static structure, if I select one, I'm selecting all of them. Let's put the entries then in here. So there are 6 of them. Let's make this const. And now I can initialize these by mem copying. Okay, this should fix it. Yeah, now I have independent selections. Okay, I am missing a feature here, which is a scroll bar. For now, let's make this list box shorter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 18 should be enough. It's a bit too much. So 16. Alright, 14 is perfect. I guess I could have just done which is 100% correct. Yeah. So the string height was 14, so it resulted in the same effect. Okay, how am I gonna implement removal since I can't select any of these? Oh, I can inline the remove button. It doesn't need to be up there. Where's the remove button? There it is. So this thing here instead goes in here. So each entry has its remove button. So I can add a texture. And then the idea is I'm selecting the voxel faces I want to assign the texture to, and each of these animation frames get the same texture assigned. And then I select new faces. Yeah. Alright, there's a sign button. Where's the sign button? Um, what's going on there? So where am I calling this function? Down here. No, this should be working. Why is this showing up and the other one isn't? Oh, I know why. I was clipping, wasn't I? Yeah, there's a clipping rate. Okay, let's do that differently then. Clipping rect, where there's this guy. Oh, I can clip manually, so I need to clip here. But this way, this button isn't affected by the clip. Still, where's my button? This doesn't set clip to true. There it is. Right. If you press the assign button, we need to loop over all selected texture maps. Editor texture maps. Oh, then we loop over each item. And then if the item is selected, this should be an integer loop. So if the item is selected, we set its texture coordinates. Where's that guy? Right, we set texture one of these entries, so we know which entry by the value of I, and it's stored in texture map dot texture maps. Alright, that's not a wisely chosen name there. Entries I. And then finally we can set the texture coordinates. I actually need to normalize the texture coordinates, since in the editor they are pixel based, but texture coordinates are normalized between 0 and 1, which means I need to get, where's the rectangle, this selected region, and then I need to divide it do I have a scale function for rectangles? No. I should. Why don't I have a scale? I have translate, and I have operator times. Multiply? No. Alright. Let's write a scale function. Let's put it under translate. Just bear with me. Return type is direct of C. But it takes a direct of T, and let's just call it X. So the scale in X and the scale in Y direction, and C is the common type of all three arguments. This way I can scale integer based rectangles by floats, and the return type will be a float based rectangle. And you write that by doing this one here, common type TAB type. And that's how you deduce C. Left, right times X, bottom times Y. So we multiply piecewise the horizontal components with X and the vertical components with Y. So we need to scale this with the inverse of the texture width and height. And this will normalize the texture coordinates. Then we can go ahead and set the text coords using the normalized rect. Alright. Two overloads. Why didn't it detect the third overload? Right there. I have a typo there, that's why. Interesting how the error message was totally unrelated to the error in the template. Okay. So basically the idea is I actually don't need the feature of naming these textures. I just realized, but that's fine. The idea is that I have a texture map for each animation frame. So this would be idle. Pressing I activates wireframe mode, okay. So the idle frames would be, so the front and back. This is the 0th frame of the idle animation. I assign, then idle 1, Okay, I can't press 1 because 1 switches context to the game. So I should be implementing disabling those hotkeys when I'm in the editor. I can use the numpad. So this is second frame, and you get the idea. So I need to do these for all animations and all frames. Maybe I can make another level of another tree level. So the top level would be the animation, and then the second level would be the frames, and the third level would be the textures themselves. So I don't need to call them idle 0, idle 1. Instead, I would have a single idle. If I expand, I get 0, 1, 2, 3, and etc. the frames, and then the textures. Yeah, let's do that. Which means I need another level of interaction here. So the frames have the texture maps. Let's say there can be a total of 10 frames. Okay. So when doing the entries, we loop over the frames, and then we display the list box. And for the name, since I need the index, let's rewrite this loop. Since I want the name of the thing to be the index string. Okay, the index string now is 2. So it's to number string. I can pass in the number and then turn this into a string view or not. Oh yeah, that compiled. Nice. What's the problem here? Right. I need to loop over the frames. And then I can loop over the texture maps. Yeah. Frame. Yeah. I need another add button here. That's where we do this. So if entry.frames count is less than count of empty frames, it means you can add a new entry. Okay. And there are our frames. So let's say this is the idle animation. So the idle animation should have 4 frames. Let's remove these two, which I can't since I didn't implement it. So if you press remove frame, we're gonna remove the entry from the texture maps. So if this is a loop where I can remove stuff from, I can't loop over like this. I need to use iterators. and I can't increment the iterator here. This is remove frame. This is remove entry. So here we go ahead and then remove the iterator and set remove to true. Alright, there it is. Can remove entries, and next removing frames. It's the same deal. I can't increment if I remove. Since I am iterating index based, oh, okay. I can't use this function because this isn't a container, it's a static array. Yeah. So let's create a view. It takes a pointer and the size and the capacity. Alright. Alright. So now we manipulate this array using an array view, which means I can erase from this view, but then I need to, after looping through the array, I need to update the frames count, since erasing from this view only changes the size of the view but not the frames count. What? Why is this returning an iterator? I guess I was using it this way. Alright, removing frames is working. Although if I remove a frame, this 2 becomes a 1 and it looks like I removed 2 instead of 1. But it's working correctly. Can check by selecting different entries here, and if I remove this one, yeah, we indeed removed a different entry. Okay. So let's say this is the idle animation. The idle animation has 4 frames. We add 4 frames. And then we set the front and back texture of the voxels to this entry. We switch to the next frame. Set it to this one. And so forth. So this is what this editor is supposed to do. And once I'm finished, I'm gonna save it to a file and then load it in the voxel editor here. So I can build a voxel using the textures that I defined here. Alright, what's the performance like? Still no impact on the performance. Oh, so I guess I should implement modal this should ask me whether I'm sure to remove the thing, because I just deleted a bunch of stuff at once when I didn't want to. Alright, I did bounce checking. I can't add more than 9 frames. So yeah, one misclick and all your hard work's gone. So let's add a modal dialog box. Alright, the model view needs to know what to remove. I could do that using a callback, which would be the easiest. Otherwise, I need to do a switch and then set up the context of the model view. Mm. The reason I need to do this remove deferred like this is because with immediate mode GUIs displaying modal views is a bit awkward. Okay. This actually makes it so that these loops are now regular loops. They don't do I don't need to remove stuff inline. So I guess I'm gonna transform them back to their previous form. Ah, same thing here. Oh no, I need the index. I forgot. Alright, the rest should be fine. Instead, except I'm not doing removals anymore. Okay, we're compiling. Instead, we're gonna do show modal, this one, and then I need to set the context. Since I'm doing the context anyway, I guess I'm not gonna use callbacks. Remove frame, remove entry, what can I remove? And remove texture. Let's call it source since the entry is called source. Alright, there's the three removal contexts. And then we have a union. So this is a tagged union, or a variant type. This is how you would write a variant in C. So let's call this variant actually. So what does this context need to know? It needs to know the frame index and which entry I'm talking about. And knowing these two, it can remove the index, the frame. So I need to set these to entry index is index of entry in texture maps, and remove frame. Frame index is just I. Yes. So removing the entry is similar. So we set this to be the active entry in this union. This set variant will set this enum itself. It's a macro, and it returns a pointer, a reference to the structure, and that's why I'm taking the address of it so I can manipulate it myself. So this only needs the entry index. And remove source. Which I implemented here. Let's make this also modal. So what do I need here? I need the source index. Yeah. So that's it. Then here we can do a switch on the variant type. So canceling just closes the model view, and OK also closes the model view, but it also does the removing. And we're gonna do this for all three types. So here it says frame will be removed, entry, and texture source will be removed. Let's compile and see if this is compiling. Almost. Okay. Why didn't I set that to hidden? Set hidden true. Oh, oops. Okay, now it's not showing anymore. There's nothing to remove, so this button that isn't doing anything. And now when I press remove, it opens up this model view. I can press OK or cancel. So cancel doesn't do anything, and OK currently also doesn't do anything. Closing the dialog box also doesn't do anything. Right, I should change show model, oops, to set the container to not minimized. Alright. So I press remove. Let's put these two buttons on the same line. Oh, yeah. I meant to do this. After the text, the next two controls are on the same line. Alright, there it is. Then if I press OK, we will then execute the removal code, which I uncommented here. Oops. texture sources is in editor. Dot items. Okay. Let's check. Let's try this one out. So cancel doesn't do anything, closing doesn't do anything, but pressing OK, remove this. Yes. So then removing the entry. So removing the entry, which is we are removing an entry from the texture maps. Race index editor texture maps entry index, and that should be it. And removing something here. Oops, didn't need to do that. I should probably write maybe not. Let's do it the way I did it before, which is create an initialized view. First get the right variant entry. So that's the entry, and then we get the entry frames, entry frame count, and count of the frames in total. Then we go ahead and do an erase index on the view, where we remove this specific frame, and then we do this. Since we made the view smaller, I should make this into a single function. I want to write this. this. So this is the array. This is the index I want to remove, and it returns the new frames count. There is a STL function that does that, isn't there? This has a search. I thought there was an erase in here. Remove takes a value instead of an index or an iterator. I want to reorder set and rotate. Rotate. This takes 3 iterators, and it makes it so that middle becomes the new first element. So erasing isn't actually rotate then. Well, I can implement it using rotates. So erasing an element is so wait, let's not write like this. Erasing an element from an array is basically rotating the position where the thing is that you want to remove. That's the first argument to rotate. Then one past the element you want to return, and then the end of the array. And then you decrement the frames count. So this would be the implementation of this function. So what this does is it rearranges the array so that the entry 1 past the index you want to remove becomes the new head of the array. So this range gets moved to where this is, and this then ends up at the end of the array, and then you decrement the frames count, which means you basically remove the entry since it's not inside the range of frames to frames count. Alright. Does this compile? std rotate. Am I not including std algorithm? Alright, then let's use move, which is basically the same thing as rotate in this particular instance. So this is the destination, this is the source, and I want to move only this many, so one less. So this also does the same thing. This is more error prone than writing this. So let's implement erase index. What I'm talking about. This is gonna return an iterator. Oh, okay. I actually want something else here. Yeah, this is actually what I wanted. So first count index. Yeah. Okay, so this is the not error prone version of writing a move. Entry, oh, did I remove that? Yeah. Okay, so let's try it out. We add a new entry, we try to remove the entry, cancel doesn't do anything, okay, removes it. Nice. Then frames, remove the frame, cancel doesn't do anything, pressing OK removes it. Let's make sure that I'm removing the right thing. Yes. Right, now I can't remove the wrong thing accidentally. Okay, I need to disable the hotkeys. So this is the idea. Hmm. There is a weird bug with this. Expanding these somehow messes with the layout. Okay. So the min frame time is 2 if I expand, and it's 1.2 if I don't expand. So the additional overhead of the GUI is very small currently. And this is a debug build, so that's totally fine. Okay. So saving loading. What else? I should have a way to set multiple entries at once, so the left, right, top and bottom are more likely than not to be the same across all frames for simple voxels like this one. So in this case, the left, right, top and bottom faces are, since this is outlined black, they're gonna be a single black line texture for the voxel map. So I need an easier way to set these in bulk, basically without having to always select these entries in a list box. Yeah. Actually, I can do that very easily. I can go ahead and I can create a checkbox that says bulk mode. If that is active, I won't display the frames, but instead a single list box, and applying texture coordinates to that list box will apply the texture coordinates to all frames if this checkbox is checked. So I need a bulk mode checkbox. Let's not do it that way. So if bulk mode, else we do it the way it was before. So if bulk mode, we do in this box. Alright, let's test this out. So there's a bulk mode thing. So now it has a bunch of frames. If I press bulk mode, all the frames go away and this will set the entries for all frames instead. And otherwise it shows the individual frames. Yeah. I should put the texture scale in here, so it's not the same with the values. Yeah, let's do that. Where are those? Snap to pixels, texture scale, and these, yeah. Those should be right here. Right, this makes more sense. I could even put the values here to the right. That's fine. So one other thing is, what am I doing? Here, I also want to treat the enter key as a press to OK. Virtual keys return, yeah. So either pressing the OK button or pressing enter is OK. Doesn't work. Oh, this should be or, not and. Yeah, there it is. Alright. Let's close some tabs. Okay, what am I missing? Oh, I didn't implement bulk mode completely yet. So when I press assign, yeah, I need to check whether I'm doing bulk mode or not. So this is if I'm not doing bulk mode. And if I am doing bulk mode, this is even wrong. Yeah, this is... Oh, is it wrong? It's not wrong. Why is my editor messing up my indentations? Okay, the difference between bulk mode and this is I'm not checking whether the item is selected, but instead I'm checking whether the texture map, bulk mode, items, if this is selected instead. So the difference being the difference is between the two modes. Oops, this is too much. So let's say I have a bunch of frames and I want to set these faces for all frames, and this takes a long time to select the faces for each thing. So instead I can do bulk mode, and this will set these faces for all frames if I press assign. If I'm not in bulk mode, I can select the faces individually for each frame, and then I press assign, these selected faces get assigned the texture coordinates that I selected here. Yeah. That's basically it. So to make this usable, I need to implement a scroll bar here. Probably make this wider. Should be also a good idea. Yeah. Alright, so what is left to do? I still need to do these two. I need to add a scroll bar. And then we should be finally able actually implement texture packing of different sources into one single texture. For this we're gonna use a bin packing algorithm. And then finally I should be finished with the texture packing, and we can work on actually creating voxel meshes. Alright, so I'm done for today. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow I'm gonna work on these to-dos. If you don't know already, this project is open source now. You can get the source code or the binaries in the description below. There are links for them. You can also, the links are now on the screen. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.